Hello everyone. In this video I will do lab 1.3.3 from DevNet Associate course from Cisco. This lab is for reviewing your Python skills. This lab has 7 parts. The first one, uh, the first part is about starting this virtual machine in the background that we already prepared it in previous videos. And it's also very necessary to mention here that this lab is not about teaching you Python, but it's about reviewing the most important things that you have to know before using or like skills that you would like to use in this course. As you can see here, it's mentioned that this lab should serve as a good measure of your Python programming skills and help direct you where you may need more review. Okay, so part 1 is launching the Dev ASC virtual machine. And the second one, part 2, like dealing with Python inside this machine from the command line interface. To check the version of the Python inside this machine, you can type Python 3 with minus capital V, and you can see here you have the Python version. And to start Python, you can type Python 3, and you can see now there are 3 angle brackets, and this means that you are now inside Python itself. So when we type 4 plus 5, you can see there's the output there. You can also type, for example, hello or hi. The output is be right there. Okay, so the main operations in Python inside the mathematical operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division component, as you can see here. And you can write it in Python in this form, and this is for exponents. Okay, so let's just do like 2 to the power, like multiplied by 3, and we have 2 to the power of 3. Sorry. When you write a function or equation in Python, you need to take in your account that the priority of each operation. So first, the priority, everything inside the parentheses will be executed. Then the exponent, after that multiplication and division, and finally addition and subtraction. So when you write a function, please be aware on priority points. The first function that you need to know or review is the print function. So with this print, and then like any other function, you should start and close the parentheses, and you can put whatever you want inside parentheses. So in case we would like to print a text or a string, you can write it like this, or if you would like to print like an integer value or float value, you can put them without quotes. Okay, so as you can see here, this is like we are dealing in Python from the command line interface. To close Python and return back to the Linux kernel or on the PyScript, you can type quit, and don't forget to use the parentheses, because this is an essential rule in Python. Each function should start and ends with parentheses. As you can see now, we are under Linux again. You can tell that this is now the username, and then I am under the machine lab VM. here I am normal user, and this is my home directory. I can say this because there is a tilde here. However, now let's close this and let's practice a little bit with Python using Visual Studio. Normally this Visual Studio on your machine there, so double click on it to start it, and then let's close this and file new, and let's select from here Python, and here we have under Python, and let's save the file under the name for example hello, and keep in your mind that the path here under div asc labs div net slash or hyphen source and then Python. So we are here, so we would like to save it here, this file in this directory under Python, and let's say that this is hi1 or hello world. You can make sure that this extension .python, let's save it, and you can see here now this is Python. Okay, so let's see what we need to do in this tutorial. Let's print only the hello world. After that, to run this code, go to run and then run without debugging, and a new terminal will be there, and they printed out here the content of this file. So run it again. As you can see here that here we have hello world. If you have not, you will not see this terminal in your machine, please go to the extension and type here Python, and then you need to reload this one here. It is already installed, but you need to update it. So here you will find something in a blue button, please reload, and then come here again and then run without debugging. You can also run it from here, since we are under the same directory, labs divnet hyphen source backslash Python. You can type Python 3 and then the name of the file, which is hello world. Let's see there. Here I am. Then let's type Python 3 hello world, and you can see now I'm running this output here. Python 3 hello world, press enter, and then file is executed. Okay, so what else we need to do here? You can also give the Python 3 and then the path to this file, and this is called relative path. Since I am here in the same directory, so I directly can type the name of the file because I am actually in the same path, so in the same directory here. In part 3, you will review the data types and variables. So in Python, there are different data types like any other variable programming languages. There is integer, there is also float, there is string, there is a boolean. So let's now practice a little bit with them. There is a this integer is like this one, it's an integer value, a float 7.6, and boolean true or false, and we have also a string which is like a sequence of characters. So in Python there is a function called type, and you can give the parameter, of course, as any function, other functions in Python, you should start and close the parentheses, and you can give a parameter between these parentheses. So let's start Python 3 here now, As you can see here now, from these three angle brackets, we are now inside Python, and let's type this function type, and then let's give, for example, 5. So as you can see, this is like this 5 is of integer type. We can say 5.6 is a float. We can say like true. You can see this is a boolean. Let's give a string like hello or hi. As you can see, this is string. Also with boolean, we can ask Python some simple questions. So one of these questions, like which one is bigger, which one is not equal or equal, or things like that. So you can see this is greater than, less than, equal, not equal, greater than or equal or less. So let's say that we would like to ask 1 bigger than 1, and the output is false, or let's say 1 equals 1, output is true. Okay, so the next part, now we have to learn how to define a variable. We can define a variable using this form. For example, we give the variable a name, and then we say that this variable equals 2, and then we would now we assigned x with 2. So when we type x, we have 2 as output. Okay, so what if we would like to assign a string to this variable? So now we will say st equals hi, and since I would like to assign a string, so I should put a quotes or double quotes around this characters to make sure to tell Python that this is a one string. So when I type now st, I have this hi. Now, as you already know, there is a plus, which means this is a summation when the arguments around there, both of them are integers or a float. So here this is a summation. I can't tell this because on the right there is 3, which is integer. On the left there is a 3, which is integer, or I can put it also 3.6, which is float. But what happened if I put, for example, a string on the one of the arguments? So now what it will be a problem. Says that you cannot make a summation between string and integer. Python can deal with this because this plus means two things. The first one, if both of them are integers, so this is a summation. But if both of them are strings, so this is called now concatenation. So here it is concatenation. Why? Because both of the arguments are strings. Okay, so returning back to this problem here, we have here integer and I have here a string. So to do things I can change the integer here to a string by do something called typecasting. So if I will type string here to the 3 and then print out, so this 3 now is not anymore integer because now I changed the type of this value, which is a 3, to be a string. So now this operation is a concatenation. The same concept with the multiplication. When I type 3 multiplied by 3, now it's clear it will be 9. But what happens if I will do something like this? Now this operation is not anymore multiplication, it is replication. So now hi will be printed 3 times. As you can see, hi, because this operation now is not multiplication, it is called replication. When one of the arguments is a string, so this change to be replication. Okay, so here you can see we have 3 variables. The first one is this Cisco, the string. The second one is also a string with networking, and third one is academy. And then we have defined a space, like space, and then we can use a print. You can see now these are concatenation operator, not anymore. It is not a summation. You can also print in this form as well. Okay, so what else? So here we can use the concept of typecasting. So when we have here, for example, x equals 4, now I would like to check the type of x, so it's integer. So if I will change this x to be string, I can do typecasting. I type string to the x, and then when I check again x, let's put it in another y equals string to the x, and then we check the type of y, and as you can see now it is a string because of the typecasting. I also can change it to float, and then as you can see it's a float here. However, this typecasting is very important when you are dealing with input or output functions. Before we move forward, you can see here that there is a division operation. So we are saying the variable called number equals 7 over 22. And then we see the number here, and it is 0.31 and so on. So what if we would like to have only 2 digits after the point? To do this, we can use, as you can written here, that we define new variable and we use this function, which is in this format. We define a variable, and here we put, like, we need after the dot from the beginning till the dot. After the dot we need 2 digits when dot format to the variable which is called num, which is this one. Okay, so now if I will print pi, so pi is actually this one with the like automatically like round this to the upper 2b2. Okay, so we can also repeat the process here. We can make it 3, we can make it 4. As you can see here, I have 4 digits after the point. In part 4, we are going to review lists and dictionaries. Keep in mind that in Python there are more data structures like tuples, like sets, but here in this course we will heavily use lists and dictionaries. So let's start with the list. So a list can be recognized by these brackets, and to define a list you can type, for example, the name of the list and then equal, and then you sign this brackets here. So here if I will check, this is a list. Let me check the type of the list, which is of type list. How to define a list? I can define in the list using now, for example, elements inside it. It doesn't matter, you put integer, you can put float, you can put a string, or also you can put another um, string, another list, and then let's print this list. As you can see here inside this list, many elements. There is a function already built in Python, which is called the length of the list. It gives back the number of the elements inside the list. As you can see here, I have 4 elements. So this is 1, this is 2, 3, and this is 4. So first one integer, second one float, third one string, fourth one is another list. Okay, so how can I reach the element or each element inside the list? You can use the concept of indexing. So if I will need only to print the first element in the list, which is 4, I can put the index of it, which is 0. Of course, you can have the first one or the second one here, which is our third one. So 0, 1, 2. Or you can print from in the opposite direction by mentioning -1. So in -1, that you are starting indexing from this one. Also, you can change the value inside um, of the elements. So let's assume now I would like to change the um, second one to be 10. So I have to refer to this position or index 1, 0, 1, and then I will put 10 here, and then I print the list. So this one is the modification. You can also use the append to add another element to the list. So you can list.append. Append is a method with a list. So let's say that we would like to have 5 at the end. As you can see here, it's just there. You can delete the list by use delete and then the name of the list. So all the list will be deleted. Okay, if you would like to delete one of the elements, also you can use like you can delete one from them as well. Okay, this is all about lists. So let's move forward and let's deal with dictionary. Where is now is distinguished thing in the dictionary is that these curly brackets. This is number one. The second one is that in the dictionary there is no item or concept of indexing. There is always key and value, and this item now is represented or separated by a column. So this is item number one, this is item number two, this is item number three, and so this is a dictionary has 3 items. In case of list, we have elements inside the list, and we can use the concept of indexing to reach. So index 0, index 1. Here we cannot use the concept of indexing to reach any value. We need to refer to the key itself. Okay, so let's copy paste this dictionary. So this is a dictionary. The name of the dictionary is IP address, and we have R1. So we have element, this the first one item. We don't have elements in the dictionary. We have items. Each item has key and value. So item number 1, item number 2, 3, and so on. So let's now check the type of IP address. As you can see now, it is a dictionary. We can check the length of this dictionary by type the function length, and this is also we have 3 items. Okay, so to reach the first value, which is now this IP address, we can type the IP address. This is the name of the dictionary, and then we assign the key, which is R1. You can use double quote or quote, it doesn't matter. So you can see here we can also use R2. We print the IP address, which is the value of R2. Okay, so I think that's all with with the dictionary. You can also add more values. When you add the value, it will be added to the end. So if you just let me show you this. So what will happen? Actually, the IP address, which is a dictionary, will have S1 at the end of the dictionary with this IP address. So again, let's print the IP address. We will see now we have a new item at the end. So now we have the length of this to be 4, not a 3 as before. Okay, you can also use the delete keyword to delete the dictionary or to delete one item from this dictionary. In part 5, we will review the input function. In most of the cases that you would like to let the users to enter or interact with your program from Python. So to let them enter something, you can use the input function. So it's written in this form. You define a variable to hold the value entered by the users, and then you use the input function. It's written like this, like any other functions. You should start and close the parentheses. If you let it like this, it's okay, it's no problem. So enter value, let's say 5, and then the output is 5. But of course, this is not obvious, so you can give a message to the user to ask him or her to enter value here. So please enter a value. And now, as you can see, I have a message, enter value, and it's 5, and then that's it. Value is entered. So when I type now x, the x equals 5 because the 5 entered there to this x. Okay, one important thing to review here, you have to know very well that here the x, even I entered 5, but because of the input function always dealing with strings, so this 5 actually inside the x is of type string. Let's check this. When type of x, you can see now it is string, even though x has a 5, but it is now in type of string. So to deal with this, we can do the typecasting here. So enter a value here, and we want to make it integer. So we can do the typecasting here, and we say integer at the beginning, and then now we put 5, and then let's check now the type of x, and now you can see it's integer. We can also use like float instead of the integer. Let's say real or float, and then 5, and then let's check the type, and as you can see it's of the type float. The same idea when you would like to use a print function. It is recommended that you always change the type of the variable to a string before using the print function. Okay, here we have a small task that you can make a program, and in this program you ask the user to enter first name, last name, and the location, the age, and then you print them out through this message. So I'm not going to like solve this. I will move forward to part 6. In this part, you are going to review the if, for, and while functions. So first, the if statement. You can define here like the if statement in this form. So if, and then you give a condition, and then a colon, and then you have to let 4 spaces or 1 tab, and also you can type else and then another colon, and then you can put another function, another print function, or another line here. Don't forget the 4 spaces or 1 tab. You can also use the else if statement. So let's see here this example. We can we ask the user to input a number, and this number is needed to be integer, as you can see here the typecasting. If the number is bigger than 1 and less than 99, then we print this message. Else, if the number between the range 100 to 199, so we print this message. You can also type else if some between 200 and 300, then you type this message. The most important thing that at the end you should have else and with colon, and then you give your last message. Okay, so let me show you this inside this program. So I'm not going to create a new file. I will change the content of this file here. Then delete this and then Control V. We only need to make change or check the indentation. Here I have a number and then if statement. Then I have to put one tab. Else if I have to put also another tab, and then else I have to put another tab here, and then we go to run. And you can see here we have an expected intent, which okay, let's check one more time. So it's okay now. So let's enter 12, and this is a standard. Let's run it again. Let's enter, for example, 150. This is also okay, and let's now print something like 500. And here we of course that this is not a standard or extended IP. At this you can see this is the message here. Okay, so let's move forward, and now let's check how to use the for loop. So here in the for loop we type the for, and then we give an item starting from the first initial value, and we can iterate through like a sequence of elements. So here in this element we have a list. This list has the name of the list, as you can see because of the brackets, devices. So let's run Python, and now let's put this list. Okay, so we have a list, and now let's say that we would like to make an iteration between them. So for I in devices, don't forget the items, and then print, let's say I. And as you can see now, I printed out in a vertical form. These R1, R2, R3, S1, and S2 are the elements inside the devices. So if I will print the devices, so it is originally in the horizontal form, but I used the for loop to print them in vertical form. So what was the concept is use for, and then the initial iterate, and then n, a keyword, and then the name of the chain or the list or sequences variables, and then the colon, and then I have to put 4 spaces and so on. Now let's assume that I will need to print only the route R's, R1, R2, R3. So here if I'm checking if R in I, then we can print the I. So here what I did actually, I also made an iteration between in this list, and here I checked if R and I, then print out this R. Otherwise just skip everything. So that's why I have R1, R2 and R3. Okay, so what is here? We are defining a new list called the switches, and we um, like will assign if the S inside the I, so we can put it in the switch list. Okay, so let's move forward and let's check the while loop. So in while loop we can use it to enter an infinite loop. First, let's check out how we can use the while loop. And here we are entering, like asking the user to enter a number, and then we check this number here. Let's print it, let's use it on the screen. As you can see, we ask the user, let's check the indentation. If x um, um, and we change the value to be integer and y equals 1, then we check the while loop. It's written that if y less or equals than x, we have to put the 4 spaces or 1 tab, and then increase the y by 1. And enter value here, let's say 9, and we are counting from 1 to 9. Let's run it again. Let's enter, for example, 4, and this is from 1 to 4. As you can see, the output is here. So what about if we would like to enter an infinite loop? We can use now while true, we can always be inside in this loop until if becomes y becomes bigger than x, then we can break out of this loop. So let's continue this code here, and we say that if y bigger than x, then in this case break. So let's run this one. Let's say we have 5. Let's run it again, and now we have 6. But now the goal behind this code of snippet is to keep the program running automatically, and this is why we need to be in infinite loop. And here we can assign that while true, because it's always true until we reach the break. So we have 5. Also we can run it again. We have here 6, and also it's counting from 1 till 6. And as you can see here, we have the same output like before, but here we used only the break keyword. And now we will use also the while loop to ask the user to quit the program. You can see here we are asking the user to enter a value, and if this value will be in x, if x equals q or equals quit, then we break, and when we break the output, we are going like break out the program. Otherwise, we can keep continue inside the loop itself. So let's check this code here. Let's check again the indentations. So here we have while here we are checking the X if it's a quit, if it's like we can quit here. If yes, so we need to break. Otherwise, we change the value to integer. Here x y equals 1. We again check while true. Then we print. So because this is now under while, so we need to indent more for four spaces. Here we also need to do this, and here we also need to do this. And this, I think now it's quite good. Let's try to check it. Okay, so it's working. So let's assume now we need 4. As you can see now, the program still in the same sequence: 5, 7, 1, and 2. So we cannot get out of the program until we press Q or quit. So as you can see, now I pressed Q, so I am out of the program. And the seventh part is about how to deal with files in Python. So as you know, so when you open a file, you need to close a file. So this is the a condition. So to open a file, you can use the open function and the name of the file. If it's in another directory, so you need to include the path to the directory, to the file, and then the mode. We have in Python 3 modes. The first one is for read, and this only you read the file, and this file should be existed, otherwise you will have an error, and then you have to deal with this through exceptions. The second one is to write or write on a file. This one you don't need to, the file should not be existed. It's okay because it will be created. And the third one is append, which is modifying the file. And here the file should be like existed. If not, it will be created. So let's now create a file inside let's open a file. Let's open a file already existed in this virtual machine, the file called device.txt. So if we go here and then open a file, and you can see this file is here. So we will open and read this file through Python program. So to reach to this, we need first to create a new file, and this call that here Python, and then let's save it under the name as it's specified, file access .python. Let's keep it like this. As you can, now it's file access, and now we need to open a file. So to do this, we define a variable called file, and this will hold the operation or from the open function. And here we give the file name. The file should be already existed, so it's device.txt. This is the name of the file, this one, devices.txt, and the mode of this operation is read. So here we are opening a file, that this is the name of the file, and this is the mode of the operation. And here we can make a for loop. So for item in a file, this file here, we can now print the item. Don't forget we need to close the file on the end, and to close this we can type the file and then close. So this is the process. We open the file, we close the file. Remember, everything will be under this, the name of this variable here. You already made it to hold the output from the open function. Let's try to run this one. As you can see, this is the content of this file. Okay, so what else? We can run this file from the terminal here. So we type Python 3 and then the name of the file, this one. Then we can run it again, and you can see here we have here the content of the file. So if we will check the file from here, so this is the content of the file. Okay, so let's keep going and let's follow the tutorial. So what about if we don't want like these spaces before? So as you can see, there is a line, there is another line which is empty, there is a line, there is another line which is empty. So here I can very easily add one function which is for the item dot strips or strip. There is also left strip and there is also a right strip in Python, but let's follow the tutorial and let's run it again. So as you can see here, we deleted the spaces between the lines. Okay, so this is the output what we have. And here we need in this form to copy the content of the file into a list variables. So there is here the file, and we would like to copy it in a form of a list variable to be the output like in this form. So to do this, we have to define a list or an empty list at the beginning. So let's say that div equals an empty list, as you can see here, and then we are checking like open a file and then read the item, delete the spaces. Before, we don't need now to print anything. We need to put them into a list, what we call the list device or div, and then inside this we can use the append the item, which is already here for an item, and then we close the file, and after closing the file we need to print the name of the list that we just created. So let's now check if it's okay. So as you can see here, this is the output as expected here, as is given here. Here we have a challenge and create a script to allow a user to add devices. So what we need here, we have this file here. We need to create a script to add devices to this script or to this text file. Obviously, we need to open the file, do the operation, write on the file, and close the file. So let's do this now together on this file here itself. So what we need first to open a file, I'm not going to change anything here because the file, we need to open it. But in this case, we need to make it like modifying the file. That's why I'm changing from read to A, which means that modifying or append. And then let's check this while true. Always be careful because Python is a case sensitive. And then we are going to add a new item equals, we ask the user to enter the name of the device. Okay, so then we check if the word, which is a new item, equals exit. So we just break, we print and, or that's it, and then we break or we close the program. Otherwise, we can say that on the file dot write and then new item. Of course, we need to enter a new line. And then we need to close the file, which is already there. So let's review again. We open the file, the mode is of A, which modify, and then we check enter keep going, keep the file, the program running until the user enters exit. If it's exit, so we print out that's it, and then we break or get out from the program. Otherwise, if it's not exit, we add the new item to the file itself and then we close the file. So let's give it a try. So enter device name, let's say switch 1. It's not here, it should be there. Let's type exit. Okay, so one more time. Here we need to keep it in this form because we should think like this is a string, and here we keep space to make it much nicer. Then let's run it again. Let's type now exit. As you can see, that's it, that's good. So let's run it again and let's check here switch 1. And then switch 2, and then switch 3, and then exit. So if we go to the file, let's check reload, and you can see here the switch 1, switch 2, switch 3 were added. So anyway, the file will be solved and will be uploaded in the description, and that's all for this lab.